probably one of my latest tutorials, because after this we'll pretty much know everything we need to know for the project. This is animation. Alright, so this video might be a little bit longer than usual because I can foresee there's a lot to talk about animation. But technically, in order to make an animation, we need keyframes and we need bones. So let's talk about keyframes, no bones. Alright, so for the animation we're going to look at this bottom panel here. This is the timeline, and this says that this animation is going to be 250 frames. That's 25-ish frames per second. That's pretty much 10 seconds. You can change the length of your animation by telling it what the end is. So yeah, let's do 60 frames, and this tells you where you are in the animation. When it comes to animation, there are keyframes. So what is a keyframe? We have to go to the dope sheet. Alright, so the dope sheet tells you that you have right now no frames, right? Let's say we want to make this box move from this point to this point in 60 seconds. So what you have to do is tell it to record this position by clicking I. And what do you want to record at this point in time, at 0? What do you want to record? Its location, its rotation, its scale, because we can make it scale up, local scale, lock rod scale is everything. So right now, let's just do position, location. So I click on that. Look at what's happening. There's a mesh called cube, and it's got an XYZ location at this time. And then when I move my timing at 60 seconds, see this moves, we want to say that we're going to be here, and we say I and record its location. Now, as the time goes, if you were to play the animation with Alt A, the object moves from one point to another. We can also record its scale. So it's very important to know that when you want to play with scales or any other attribute, that you record its initial value at the beginning. So if I want to play with scale, I need to go at the very beginning and say record scaling, and say that halfway I want the scale to be like double. Record its scale, and at the end I want the scale to be back to how it was, so S 0.5, okay, and record it, scaling. There are 3 scales now, 3 scale points. Whoop. See what's happening here? Of course, that you can also make the animation longer if you want. So let's go back. Let's go to 120 instead. And just like any vertex or anything in Blender, you can select the points and stretch them. So select everything and stretch from the start point. So S, stretch, and you can see at the very bottom. At the bottom, these will move as well. So S, and let's go up to 120, or I can probably do S2. Enter. Same tools basically. This will just make everything seem a little bit slower because now it's doing the same thing over a long period of time. Another good tool to know is this record, and that will automatically give you points whenever you make a change. So if I were to record and I were to rotate this object now, as soon as I let go, as you can see, there's a rotate scale that's been added. And if I move here like a quarter of the way, I want the rotation to be this much. And then I want the rotation to go back this way. It recorded it. And at the end, I want to have the same rotation as I had before. So Alt R resets the rotation, or Alt G resets the position, and Alt S I think resets the scale. So now if I were to play this, See what's happening? That's pretty cool stuff. Okay, so that's moving one object and giving it a location rotation change depending on time. In order to animate an object, let's say if we want to make like an arm and want to animate the top separately from the bottom while linking them, then let's delete all of these keyframes. Let's go back to 0. Let's reset this guy's resets location, rotation, and location. We're back at the beginning. Let's separate this guy. Oh, and reset scale too. Alt S. Okay, so now let's look at what we have for scale. Yeah, it is 1. Oh, and everything's been recorded. We don't want this, so we're going to delete these keyframes just to start from scratch. This would be what I had if I were to just open Blender from scratch. No keyframes, nothing. Let's turn this off. Okay, so we go in here and let's make this a little bit taller and extrude and make that taller. Okay. Now what we want to do, we have this object, okay, and it's got all these vertices, and let's give it some more details just so that I can show you another issue you might, oh no, not Alt R, Control R to give it a little Control R. As somebody is calling me. Is this a recruiter? Let me pause this for a second. Okay, let's resume. I guess that was some weird scam call. Okay, and another R here, and let's size it, and let's blah. Okay, so the center of the object is down here, right? Let's see, 1 second. I think somebody left me a voicemail. Great. Okay. So, oh, also one thing I didn't talk about is how to make things smoother, but that's for later. That's for later tutorials. I think I need to make another one for all of these, or most of these. We looked at the. Did we look at the mirror? Yeah, I think I showed you mirror before, but there's also where is it? Subdivide. See, now this will give you a little smooth object with more points. You can decide to subdivide more points or less points. But yeah, let's pretend. Yeah, well, let's pretend we are here. I wonder how I should go on to. There's something that ties into this. Let's not do this yet. Okay. So, quickly, in order to make this animate so with a joint in the middle, you'd have to add a new object. So we need to be at the center. So what is it? Control Shift Alt. Oh no, just Shift S, and cursor to selected. We're down here. We're going to move. We're going to add an armature, single bone. Let's move it out of the way so we can see it. And now, let's put it back in. Let's see. Yeah, let's put it back in. Alright. In order to see it through, you can either do Z to look through everything, or you can go into this little armature tab, little guy here, and click X-ray. Now you can see it through. You can also change there's different ways to represent a bone. There's a stick, there's this bone, this is the simplest one. So you see the base and the head is at the top. And just like any object in Unity, in Blender, I just pressed 5 to look dead on. Like any object in Blender, you can grab them, you can scale them. So we'll put one here, and you can extrude. And we're going to extrude a second one up here. This means that since one bone has been extruded from the other, it means that top bone's parent is this guy, which is cool. You can also, if you were to extrude and delete the middle bone, you see that there's a line telling you that this bone's parent is this guy. You can look at the hierarchy under bone. It tells you if it is connected, this one's not connected, and the parent is bone, whereas this guy's name is called bone 002. So let's go back and only have the two that we wanted. You would name them. Let's say this would be B1 and this would be B2. It's important to name bones so that attaching things to the bones will, you'll see. In order to see the names, same thing, just like we saw the X-ray, we can see the names by clicking on the object this way. Now we need to parent this object to these bones. The quick way of doing it is right-clicking the object and then shift right-clicking the bone, click P, Control P, and it's going to say how do you want to parent these together. With automatic weights, we'll kind of auto-calculate it, and you'll see what this just did. By now, if you are clicking on right-clicking to select the bone in object mode, you will see that there's an extra little, there's edit mode and there's pose mode now. Pose mode will allow you to see what's been attached to what. So let me go back with Alt R. So this, it did it pretty well. It looks like the top is really well attached, and the bottom is also attaches everything. You may run into some issues here when you do automatic parenting. Let's see. Alt Control Z Z Z. Okay, I think that this is no longer attached. Oh, no, it is. Let's unparent. How do I do this? I think it's this Alt P, clear parent. Great. So now there's no more parenting. Great. Let's say there's if there's some funky, let's try to make some funky things happen. Okay. Let's take this bone, move it out. Oh, sorry. Let's take the entire armature. Usually when you make an armature, you have B1 is the one that's going to control the entire object, and then within that you have smaller bones that control the details of the object. So let's have this pointing this way, say to the center, this pointing up here, and then another bone up. We want this bone to not deform anything, so we go into the bone property here, and we're going to say this guy is not going to deform anything, but these two will. And let's add some more. Yeah, let's do this. And let's see. Yes. Okay. This should do the error that we run into. So, same thing. You select the object in object mode. Shift select the armature in object mode. Control P, automatic weights, and let's see what this has done. Okay, so you see that moving the top bone here kind of moves these points. Maybe we don't want that. Moving this will take the entire object. Moving that, okay, we'll take obviously the entire thing with that. Okay. Okay. In order to select what vertex is it, what vertex attached to what bone, you select your object and you would go to vertex to weight paint, and look at what's happening here. Since this bone is selected, it says that this bone will have these vertices that are red attached 100% to the bone. And as it gets to blue, these vertices are 0%. So this bone will affect the top ones 100%, and in between just a little bit. You may want that or you may not. If you don't want to, I want to tweak that separately, you can, let's say, subtract. And now, as you can see, if I click on the vertex, I subtract, I make them a little bluer. Let's say if I were to do that here, that vertex is not attached at all. It's like just 0. So let's add some more. You can blur a little this. Now it's not 100% anymore, so it should lag a little bit. You don't see it because it's such a simple object. Okay, the other way to attach bones to an object where you have full control is by not doing automatic ways, because automatic is just like a quick and dirty way of doing it. Let's go back to object mode, select my object and my armature, which needs to be in object mode. So object, shift, armature, control or alt P, clear parent. We're good. We're going to take this bone and we're going to reset it. I guess we're going to need to go into pose mode. Control everything, control A everything. I clicked A to select everything, alt R to reset the rotations. Okay, let's call this bone B3. And now let's call different. So let's hide this this bone, this armature with hide. Let's take chunks of vertices. I can do C to select blah blah blah. I can do Z to look through and select these last guys. And I'm going to call these set of vertices B3. Oh, actually, I have sets already. I need to call it B3. And I'm going to say these vertices are going to be assigned to a group called B3. So if I were to deselect B3 and select B3, ooh, that's not good. Let's select everything and say remove. Here, remove, here, remove. Okay, so I have 3 groups. This should not select anything, great. So let's go to group B3, and I want these vertices to be part of B3. So I'll assign them to B3, great. Deselect, select. I like to hide after I'm done. And select these guys and assign them to group B2. Deselect, select to make sure. Right, okay. Alt H to show everything. Now that I have these vertices with group names, go to object mode, Alt H to show me everything, so all the objects are showing. Solid. Now if I were to parent this object to that object, Control P, here I would say with envelope weights, I think it's with empty groups. There we go. So now that this is parented with empty groups, if I were to click on the armature with pose, now it's exactly those vertices that will be attached here. And this is good because you can make a simple object, a simple character object like this, and then later if you decide to hide this, to make the object more complex, I think this should work by let's say I want to make it smooth. I would add a modifier, and I would add the, not the armature modifier, I would add the blah 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 subdivision modifier, and apply. Since I have called all my vertex groups, I think that now I can select, aha, see, if I select B2, the bottom ones are still part of B2. That's why it's really good idea to name your vertex groups before you do too much details, because then it would be a pain in the ass to try to select what's what. Okay, so let's go now and let's apply it. Did I apply this guy? Let's Yes, I have applied. On hide. Oh, go to object mode. On hide. Also, you see how there's like multiple little facets here? You can also smooth it by clicking smooth. Now you have like a nice little smooth object, and it's attached to an armature, and it moves with the object moves with the armature. I can still go to weight paint and make the transition a little smoother. Maybe add a few more here if I wanted to, or less, depending. You can blur, you can do a bunch of stuff. Anyways, now you have your object and your armature, and we're almost done, because all we're gonna do now is make some animations. So back to the dope sheet. I'm going to go to actions if I want to make multiple animations, right? I'm going to call, so we don't need this n. This new action will be called anim1, okay? And this animation will just do this. We're going to, oops, object to select this, and we're in pose mode, great. All the bones at keyframe 0 will be saved here by doing location, rotation, and scale. Lockout scale. But here I want this to like move this way and this to move this way. Oh, let's click on the auto record. Let's move a little bit to select that. Move a little bit, and then this frame, that, and this frame, this, and that. And if you want a smooth loop, you want to go back to the beginning and select these bones, actually everything, and do a copy. It's going to copy that pose. Go to the end, and you would paste that pose. Now the animation starts and ends the same way, so it should be like a smooth transition. See, there we go. And oh, actually, when you make an action, sorry, it's after you're done with your animation. You call your action animation1, and it's very important to click this F. That saves it. Alright, because now let's look at the multiple animations we have. We had anim1, the first one that had nothing. It doesn't have an F next to it. That means it's not going to be exported to Unity, and it's never going to be saved or anything. So once we're done, we've saved it. We can select all of these key points, delete them because we're ready for a new animation. Select everything here, Alt R and Alt G. Okay, so, oh, sorry. Delete these keyframes. We need to be at 0. Let's do another animation. This one is going to go up and down and move around. And okay, so I lockout scale. Move next. I want this bone to go up, and then like over, and then back down to where it was. So I'm gonna copy its position location, paste it. Don't worry about paste mirror. That's for when you have an object that has bones that were called BL and BR, and that will mirror the pose. So you only do like half a walk animation, and then you can mirror the other side. Okay, so it goes up, and at this point I want this to look like this to look like that. Over here I want that to look like this and like that, and over here blah and blah. And I go back to the beginning, I select these two, copy position, go back to the end, paste position, and I have this thing. Keep in mind the root is still at the base. The root has never moved. The root of the object. Okay, so now we're going to call this animation2. Save it. Alright, so now we're ready to export to Unity. So we're going to save this as gizmo. That's a weird gizmo. .blend. Save it. You can also texture it and do a bunch of cool stuff. Go into Uniy. Our gizmo is here. Alright, so before you can see it do anything on Unity, when you click on the gizmo, you have the model, the rig, and the animation. And you can see the default animation down here. So what you're going to need to do is tell each one of its animation. Oh, it didn't save our animation 1. How come? Aha, there's a little issue here. Can I go back to F animation? Oh yeah, I didn't save my first animation. Interesting. Well, let's do that so we can see two animations. All I lockout scale. Here R here R it's gonna like flex, and back here copy and paste, and animation flex. Oh, I think I was supposed to add. Yeah, to add, call it anim flex and save it. Okay, let's see what this did. Save the entire thing. Back to Unity. Oh, okay, now I have a few animation. I have my anim flex, which is that. Okay, so we have animation 2. Let's delete this guy and this default guy. And okay, so we're gonna say that this one needs to be a loop and this one needs to be a loop as well. We apply, and now if you look at the object, there's a few things that came with it. There's the armature, there's the cube, there's its mesh, 2 animations, and an avatar. If I were to put this in and play, nothing should happen. Oh, I'm still in maximize. Okay, nothing should happen. And if I want to see some animation, I need to create an animator. Create animator controller. There we go. In this animator controller, I'm going to say that in any state, from any state or entry, you're just going to go to animation 1. And from here, make transition. Boom. Then, on to the object, which is down here, the gizmo guy. You see that there's a slot for an animator. We're going to just drag the animator that we created right there. Now, when we start the game, we see that first animation doing its thing. It's doing its thing. If we want to move between one animation to another, then you have to do that programmatically. You would have to go back to your animator and say, now I have 2 animations, and I have, okay, to move from this animation to another, you can make a transition, and from this back to this one, and you're going to say, what does this transition, what is going to activate this transition? You create a little parameter here, and you're going to say, maybe it's a bool, maybe it's a float. A bool would be just a Boolean value that's called, switch, and you're going to say that, alright, if the switch is true, move up, and on this one you're going to say if the switch is, I guess, false. But that would mean that if you are in this state and the switch is true, it's going to go up. If you're in this state and the switch is false, then you're going to move down, and you're going to change animations that way. Let's see if I can do that here. If I switch the switched on, it's going to wait for the animation to finish, and it's going to now move to that animation. And you can control this programmatically. And if I'm in this mode and in this state and were to click that, new animation. Okay, there's also transitions that are good to know, but I'm not gonna, that's getting too complex for what we want. This is just, now now that you know these, once you see like one of my models, you'll understand what it has. Like this model guy has same thing. It has like a default take. It has like a walking, a pose lib. These are all animations that I made, and it needs to have like a an animator to switch between the animations. Well, I think that's it for now. I'm gonna take a break before I do a live stream. Thank you for watching.